to share your ideas, not about only product, like not features and so on, but whatever. So it's not only about growing. That I agree that we should aim for growing, but I guess that's the sustainable word, right? Like in a sustainable manner, I guess. So keeping quality or improving this quality or this healthiness on the community. Um, what can be included into that? I don't know. Being honest, I don't know. It could be everything, almost everything, or almost nothing, because besides the main product, that is the specification and tooling and all this stuff, everything could be part of the community, right? From my point of view, everything is community, almost everything. So I guess at some point, we should have to define this or start by some limitations of what we want to do as a group or not. I don't know. But yeah, I see this group could grow like very big in terms of responsibilities or concerns, maybe. So it's very abstract. Maybe without examples, it's hard. I have the impression, like the feeling that everyone knows what it is, but no one's know how to describe it properly, Or at least this is my feeling. It's hard.
Yeah,
And
I also have the same feeling. That's why I'm asking this question to all of you.
yeah.
But just the
Regarding,
fact that
sorry.
we don't seem to, oh, sorry.
No,
I was
go,
just,
go, go.
I thought it was very interesting the last sentence that Sergio said. So he said, I totally know what this is. I just don't know how to describe it. And it seems to me that we're all feeling that way. And so to me, that's a sign that we don't actually know what it is. Because when I know what something is, I can define it. But when I'm still not very clear, that's when I realize, oh, actually, I'm not very sure yet.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Maybe, yeah, one of our duties for the next weeks or whatever could be to set those boundaries or to figure out what are the boundaries of this group. And maybe that could help, I don't know, to understand what we can do or what we do, what we want to do better.
Agree. So Maya, any opinion on that? Any thoughts?
Any opinion on the purpose of the group?
Yeah, like what's the purpose of the group for you?
Okay. So from my understanding, I think it's to create a welcoming and inclusive community where everybody feels safe and good about it. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not quite sure I understood. I heard correctly.
Sorry, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, what about now? Okay. I said from my understanding, I think it's to create a welcoming and inclusive community where everybody feels safe and like the community feels healthy. Yeah, that was what I said.
All right. So you touched a very important point, yeah, about inclusivity and like welcoming community. Actually, the word welcoming has been around for a while. Actually, in the first set of issues I created back then when I hired Lucas initially to work full time on SNKPI, I think one of the labels was like make SNKPI a welcoming community. I think that was the title of the label on ISUS. So yeah, it's been around for a while. So yeah, it's good that
Yeah,
it's good that you say that.
thank you.
So Ace, maybe next one.
I mean, they've already said everything I could eventually say. And also, like concerning to what Sergio also mentioned, a big part of the community working, the community growth is actually collaboration with other groups, right? And it will be really difficult to collaborate with other groups if we don't even know what our own group is about, right? Which is why I really love the fact that Sergio actually touched that part.
Yanas, Lucas, you want to participate on this or just listening? Sure, I'm not sure what you just listen. Okay. We have people sneaking in.
So Lucas is there. Huh?
Judging in the background. Yeah. Okay. So cool. So the first thing that I see with this is that obviously the purpose itself of the group is not clear to everyone, right? So I'm gonna be the last one now to share. So what it is for me, right? So the reason I started, inside Postman with the team, like let's create this group, let's create this community, this working group, right? Was that it was really deadly simple. So we noticed that in many repos, the Postman team was the only one either maintaining the repos or participating actively. And so in general, what is happening still, is that the community as a whole relies a lot on the Postman team, right? Existence. So that is not healthy for the community, because then we are in the hands of Postman, right? And what if Postman decides to cut the investment on Async API? Who's going to maintain all these things, right? That's one thing. The other thing is that it's not fair. It's also not fair that many of the repos is only, let's say, or almost exclusively participated by people in the same company, right? Because that only gives the vision of these people in this company, and this vision is transferred to the tools, right? This reality that we have in our lives because we are paid for doing this full time and so on is transferred to these tools. And also, we're not users of the tools. We are just tooling developers, spec developers, and so on. But we don't use Async API in production ourselves. We don't have a use case like the folks at Lego, for instance, or Justit or Raiffeisen Bank, or like many others, right? So yeah, so it's a very narrow vision of the world that we have on Postman, right? Even though we try not to. That it's gonna get pushed to the tools, right? But honestly, what worries me the most, probably in the long term, is that like if a team of people who are paid by a company has to maintain the majority of the stuff, then this is not sustainable. At some point, this is gonna stop. And who knows? I mean, maybe imagine tomorrow Postman decides to stop investing in Async API, and nothing happens because people might react to this and start maintaining stuff and joining and actively participating. You never know, right? So it might happen. But honestly, I prefer, in this case, I prefer to protect, let's say, the community against this uncertainties and that are not, let's say, controlled by the community itself, right? So that's why one of the goals that we have, one of the objectives that we had, is that we should be onboarding X amount. I don't remember, like I think more than 5 non-Postman maintainers in each monitor repo. Monitor is just because we have a list of the repos, not all of the repos, but it's mostly mostly all of the repos except a few of them, a handful of them. But yeah, like I don't want to call to call it like the important repos, because there are many other important repos that we were not monitoring, but you know, like the ones that we were taking care of, let's say. So yeah, so the whole motive for this was, let's try to make it resilient to external companies, external to the community, right? So that we can grow, and it's not just Postman, so other companies can, and individuals can be chiming in and pushing the tools forward and so on, right? So therefore, the non-Postman, to make it explicitly, you know, like that's the thing, and that's a whole, let's say, that's a whole story. Now, if I gotta put it plainly, in a simple sentence, I will say, I want Postman to lose power on SNKPI, power of influence, right? I want my team at Postman to lose power of influence on SNKPI, because it's not healthy. That's not gonna let us grow, let's say, to the next stage, right? To whatever the stage is, right? But yeah, it doesn't scale, right? So it's not gonna be, and it's also not healthy, as I said. So I want, plainly put, I want Postman to lose power on SNKPI because, and influence, because it's too much, right? So yeah, if you ask me, that would be, let's say, my main, that was my main objective. That was, but that doesn't have to be, now that things have changed a little bit, that we opened this group to other people outside Postman. We can definitely cover other cases as well, or instead. So yeah. Ops clear. Like, I hope I made myself clear and I didn't go in rounds. Okay. Cool. So now I will say the most difficult question is, what will be our objectives? I think we should all come up with, well, actually, before we get there, what will be, let's say, the number one purpose of this group? Can we all agree in this call, in the next call, whatever? Can we all agree on a single purpose, on a single vision, or what this group is about? Is anyone willing to make this effort of leading one vision for this group?
Are you asking us on the call right now if we all, I feel like I'm not 100% sure what you're asking me.
So what I'm asking is that, I was asking, like, what is the purpose of this group for you, right? I asked this question to each of you. Now, there were like some differences, but there were some things in common as well. So now I think, like, as a next step, we need to define and make it clear for all of us here, what's the purpose of this group, right? Beyond getting into objectives or tasks that we will have to do, or initiatives that we will have to do, and so on. Before that, we need to make it clear between us, at least, first, what's the purpose of this group, right? Like, what does it group exist for? And I will even question, like, does this group has to exist?
Yeah,
Right?
seriously.
There's another option, that this group's responsibilities are spread among other, I mean, let's say, among all the working groups, which is totally a fair option as well, right? So does this group has to be like multiple working groups instead of just one? What do you think?
Can I ask questions or can I say something?
Please do.
All right. Okay, cool. I think the best way to define what the purpose of the working group is by answering the questions you just, or by answering like the purpose of why you created the working group in the first place. So since you said the goal is not to make Postman employees not or async API not too dependent on Postman employees, right? And so the first thing you need to answer is how are we going to do that? Then from answering those questions, right, then we can now derive to say, okay, the purpose of the working group is in this direction. This is how we're going to approach the working group, right? After we have answered, how do we plan to make our API not too dependent on Postman employees? How do we achieve that? Then we can start to say, okay, the working group, we can start to define now, okay, this is the purpose of the working group. This is the direction that we are taking, and we can start from there. That's my thoughts.
So you want to start with the how first?
I mean, yes, like it doesn't mean that we have to have the answers now, right? But like it will help us like to really define how we're going to approach or what the purpose of the working group should be, or the focus, the key areas that the working group should start focusing on.
I don't know what to think about that, because even though I think I get what Julia is saying, and I like her perspective, and I'm glad that she's finally in the community working group. I was like, why is she not here from the beginning? But I also kind of feel that that's kind of the same, that's kind of the situation we've been in the whole time, leaving the definition up for later and let's just get to work. But how can we get to work if we're not clear on what we're supposed to be moving toward? And so to me, I think we do need to have time to make that exercise of deciding, because right now it sounds like we all have a lot of ideas in common, and it sounds like a lot of us mostly seem to agree on what we hope this group can achieve, but I still hear that we're not very clear, and so I would like more clarity and communication to make sure that we're all on the same page. And to the earlier question from Fran, would it help if we simplified things by starting with only 1 or 2 small goals? For example, yes, maybe right now we dream of all the millions of things that this community group could achieve for a sync API. But maybe we're shooting ourselves in the foot by trying to eat too many things at the same time. Maybe instead we have to think about what's our number 1, maybe top 2 things that we really, really want to do. And I think that if we do that, that will really help us, because that's where I see the main struggle, because we all have a lot of ideas. And so we're just kind of like chickens with our heads running around all over the place.
Just a question from my side. But in the end, we have the goals already defined, right, for 2024. There was this discussion before 2024 started by Tuli. So we have these goals. We have some reoccurring initiatives that we're doing, and we have goals there. So in theory, there's not much to decide on. It's already decided by the community to work on these 2 goals: increase maintainers number and do community docs.
Well, I think the main question here will be like, do we want to follow those goals only, or do we want to follow those goals plus something else? Like, I think everyone is clear here that growing the number of maintainers is one of the things that we will have to do. So far, I've seen that. Probably ambassadors. I think ambassadors were there as well, if I remember correctly. But the thing is that I'm seeing, like, in previous conversation, I was seeing that, and even here today, like, there has been mentions to other things that are not related to this, like, for instance, how working groups work, like, charter and so on, like, I don't know, how the TSC works, or how the TSC is organized. Like this is all like, let's say, helpful for the community to grow right now. That's why we need to be careful with the definition, because just with the name, everything like Sergio said, like everything that's not tooling or spec is potentially community growth, right? It's potentially community, right? So yeah, because nobody wants to do things for the community to go worse, right? So everything will be community to go better, right? So yeah, these goals are clear. I agree with that, and I think we'll end up going there, to be honest. That's my personal opinion. As the number one, let's say number one goal, right? Now I think it's helpful. Let me check. So back in time, I think in 2021 or 2020, I don't remember, 2020, I think. We took the time, I think, or I took the time, I don't remember if I did it with Lucas or just Alon, I don't recall. We did this independently of what it says here, right? There's this structure that I like to have. You have the vision, which is just one thing, right? Then you have objectives or goals, which are multiple things usually. It can be only also one if thing is, let's say, narrow, if the goal is narrow. And then you have a bunch of, let's say, kind of like tasks, right? More sliced down tasks and so on. So I think if we manage to come up with this, because right now what we have, Kinda, what we have is this. We have to grow the number of maintainers. We have to grow the number of ambassadors, for instance. We need to okay, so it's like, these goals are clear to me. Now, the thing is that if we manage to make it clear what's the vision for this working group, like what's the purpose, that's what I was saying. I was trying to avoid vision because it's an overused term, but what's the purpose behind the existence of this group? And if we can define it in a single sentence, 2 sentences at most, that will be super helpful, right? Like, so we all agree, like, okay, so this group is about this. And then we have this goal now about growing the number of maintainers, for instance. But tomorrow we succeed and we manage to create all that's needed to onboard maintainers. And that's not a goal anymore because we already did it, right? But does this group has to cease to exist, or does this group continues? If this group continues, then what the next goal is going to be, right? Probably the next goal is going to be also like kind of following this vision, right? You know what I mean? So that's what I'm trying to come up here. So like, what's the purpose, basically? What's the vision, the purpose, the meaning, the reason for the existence of this group? Call it whatever you want.
Question. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna go
Alejandra.
first. Ha! And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll take it. I'll go first. And I have more of a question than a, intelligent statement to sound cool. I'm just kind of wondering, so I do kind of feel like what you said right now really clicked when you said, hey, I feel like we all seem to agree on all of the goals, but I still think that the group overall doesn't seem to quite agree or know what the main vision is, if we're going to call it a vision or whatever we want to call it. So then my question is it as simple as saying something like the community growth working group has a vision of identifying active non-postman maintainers for the most important repos? I guess I kind of feel like I don't really know what the vision is for our group other than healthy community growth, but whatever that means, right? What does that actually mean? So then I try to think of a more specific way to quantify it. And for some reason, all my brain can think of or is stuck on is having more active maintainers take ownership in diverse projects that we have. But then to me, that also sounds like I'm just repeating a variation of one of our goals. And so I'm wondering if other people in the phone call are kind of like feeling the same thing I am, or is there somebody else in the call that says, not at all, actually, now I feel that the vision is clear. That's just what's going on in my mind.
I think the vision is my point of view. Okay, so the vision shouldn't be limited to an action, right? So the vision should be more ambitious than that, because from my point of view, the vision is like the North Star, right? It doesn't mean that we have to take the vision as I have to read it every day and ask myself, blah, 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 you know? But at least if we keep adding new initiatives into the working group, or duties or responsibilities or whatever, or areas of interest, it should match with the vision. Otherwise, the vision is wrong, or we want to change it, or doesn't fit in the working group, right? What I see is like the vision is like the top of the iceberg for what the working group should do or wants to do. But then we keep elaborating on this. One thing is that the other thing I wanted to say, because Lucas mentioned that the things to do were already defined. I disagree completely, but that's my opinion, because, well, Lucas said the community already voted, but I don't believe the community voted anything, because I think that's the clear example of the community not being involved, because I don't see so many people saying nothing, just kind of like accepting, okay, we have nothing versus we have something, but good, let's do it. We have something. You know what I mean? That's my feeling. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. But as you can see, so, well, the people involved in that discussion is like very limited. It doesn't represent the community from my point of view, even though we have two leaders, okay, who is I would say the most important piece of, or the glue between all the pieces on the community, but still I don't believe the community said nothing. So I wouldn't even take that. I mean, I don't want to sound rude, okay, but I don't want to take that as something the group should do. Maybe the group can take that or be based the vision and all the tasks that want to perform based on that, could be, but I believe we should discuss this, because it's a working group. This is not anything
Yeah.
else. So it's a working group where we want to work on whatever we believe, obviously, always like that makes sense on async API, but otherwise the working group won't exist if we don't agree on something, or we don't decide what the working group should do. Instead of doing that, we instead take an issue or a discussion, and just based on that very limited scope, we decide what we want to do. Then we are doing what others want to do, right? But not the community. I don't know how to say that, but I hope you understand my point. What I believe is that discussion doesn't represent the community, because the community is not engaged.
Mhm.
We could take it as a start point. I completely agree. And I even like it. I mean, I participated and I like it. but we should consider that maybe we should discard that at some point. We don't have to be afraid. That's my opinion. Not discard that discussion, but discard that as part of this working group.
I'm actually really glad you brought that up because I had honestly been struggling with the exact same feelings that Sergio just said, like literally everything he just said. So I just wanted to express that I felt the same thing in case that's relevant and other people can, I don't know, in case that's relevant.
But then how you want to evaluate what you just said, which I think is super dangerous. So we have a public discussion, we have work done by someone that works on the community for a year, defines something openly, gives time to react, and then we have some emojis, we have some questions, and basing on what can we then later decide that I don't see a community representation there? How, like in the future, let's say you decide to do something and then, I don't know, like Alejandra will give a thumbs up, I'll write, yeah, that's what we should do. And then what? Somebody will come and say, no, it's not representation of the community, we should do different.
I think what we're trying to express here is that it
Please,
does kind of
sorry to
worry.
interrupt, Alejandra. So Miguel has been for a while with the race, and
Sorry.
now Ace as well. So
Yeah, no problem. Hey, hi everyone. I've been in and out for quite a while, and I said, okay, trying to get back in the swing of things with async and all things API. But yeah, so to your earlier point, I don't want to dismiss what's going on with as far as community, not community, et cetera. I don't have the whole context, so I just want to park that a little bit. I don't want to dismiss it. I want to be respectful. But to your earlier question, Fran, about, okay, long-term exists, don't exist, et cetera. So, to me, like, for example, I am in the working groups for Moonwalk, OpenAPI, right? I'm there because I think, the working groups are, a group of people that basically want to have a common interest in facilitate collaboration, problem solving, recommendations, implementation, and knowledge sharing, which you folks are already doing that. So that, to me, that's the working group, all of those 5 things. And so I think should be, to your first point, Fran, long term, yeah. As long as ASIC API is relevant in the API space, there should be a working group. Someone has to carry it forward. Has to be. Otherwise, it doesn't make. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here because I wouldn't say, oh, ASIC. Well, no, that died a long time ago. That kind of thing, right? So I think, my personal opinion, it should, as long as ASIC is important and relevant, which it is and it should be, then there should be a working group to keep it going. And yeah, and I think these 5 things: collaboration, problem solving, recommendations, implementations. This is a working group facilitates all of those 5, and within those, there's the discussion of community, not community, et cetera, those kind of disagreements. So I think that's the fun part. I think that's the secret sauce, right? They bring all kinds of people, whether from different companies, to actually do that. That's what I find gratifying. For example, the Moonwalk working group and OpenAPI specs area, et cetera. So hope ASIC lives for a long time. If I answered your question, Fran. So, but anyway, thank you for your time.
thank you, Miguel. So Ace, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to understand the whole context of Sergio and Lucas. So I don't understand something about what Sergio is saying. So are you saying because we as a working group, we get to make some distinctions that we don't have to involve the community, or what are you saying? I just want to understand.
What I meant is that basically, so Lucas mentioned the discussion that he pasted on the chat, and so just as a note, I don't want to say that it's not good or it's not something based on feedback got from community. So don't take me wrong. What I wanted to say, the only thing I wanted to say is that this is a working group that it didn't start yet, right? So we plan to do something. We don't know what exactly, and we don't know how. From my point of view, starting with a very limited of things to do or to take care of, from my point of view, is wrong. That's the point. So just getting back, because Lucas said that everything is it's done in that place, right? So you can take care of this link. So everything is written there. That's what I understood. And what I wanted to say that I don't believe that doing it that way, it's the way to do it, because we are a working group. We are not a contractor group, you know, something that you pay, you do, and that's it. So it's more like we are in the same line. We want to do something together. We want to take care of some parts, some pieces of the community. And what I want to say is that I don't think we should be biased by that. So it's not different from what Fran said about taking this plus having the possibility of doing things on top of it. But I'm going further. I'm saying that we can, or I recommend we should even reconsider if those things are still valid or not. Because coming back to what I said about the community, yes, Truly did a really, really great work, and that's something that we can discuss about it. So it's a fact. But still, I feel, or the community still is not very engaged on that. So that's why the meaning of this working group, most probably, right? So I'm not pretty sure, I'm going to say in that way, that discussion represents 100% what the community wants, right? That's the only thing.
Because when
Maybe
you
I'm
look
wrong.
at the
I
expression,
don't know.
oh, sorry, Sergio, I'm so sorry.
No.
Folks, just so you know, 1 minute for for the time of the meeting. We can expand beyond that if you're all fine, but just so you know.
Oh,
I
I'm
mean, that's
confused.
fine by me.
Can I say something or sorry? What? Yes. Okay. Okay. So, for example, the community discussion that we're going on about, I agree that we definitely need all of the things that are outlined there, which was started by, Thule opening the discussion. And I don't think that anyone in our community disagrees that those are things that we need to do. My impression is that everyone agrees these are things we need to do. But this discussion was not opened, directly by working group goals or initiatives, right? It's more like these things are related, but they're not the same thing. So when I go to that discussion, I only see, honestly, 3 people making noteworthy engagement. Thule, who began the conversation, Lucas, and Sergio also chimes in, and he actually wrote some substantial feedback and ideas there. And I think I might have commented, I agree or something, but like I barely myself engaged in that discussion as well. So if we think about it, only 3 people actually were really engaged in that conversation. The rest are just people saying, oh, cool, I'm new to Async API. I want to contribute too. But, it's not really, it's not the same. So I also was feeling that this discussion was opened out in the wild, but that it didn't get the visibility that it needed. So I was concerned about that as well. And I think, I don't know if Sergio said this or if Ace said this, but it kind of ties into the very fact that almost no community members are really engaged in that discussion is yet another sign of why we need maybe the community growth working group, because we have a lot of passive people, but not a lot of active people. Okay, sorry.
Okay, I have a question, right? Because this discussion, right, were goals that were focused, that I, as the community manager, were to focus on, right? These were the things that I, as a community manager, right? Continuing from the goals that were defined by as a KPI last year of things that we needed to focus on this year, right? So now that there is a community growth working group, fine. So does that mean that these goals that the community manager is currently doing are now null and void and they are taken up by the community working group or not? Now that will be my question. Like, okay,
I think that's the whole
right, that's-
discussion, right? I think that's the whole discussion.
Yeah,
Like, will it
so-
be part of it or not?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so something that I'm saying, sorry if I interrupt. So I see the conversation derailing a little bit from the way this discussion was done, if there was participation or not. Like, I think this is totally different discussion that we can have separately, please. It's as Lucas said, it's dangerous to say that this is not representing the community as well, because this discussion was open and was called for participation. And if community doesn't participate, then what can you do, right? At some point, you have to establish a limit of time and say, like, okay, until here, we're gonna listen to what people has to say, and that's it. And then it's community discussion, because everyone had the opportunity to chime in, even if they didn't do it. So I understand that part, right? But this was community goals that Tuli set for her as, as the community manager for this year. What we're discussing here is the goals for this group, which they should be aligned, like they should not be conflicting each other, obviously. Like we cannot have a goal that says we're gonna decrease the number of maintainers, right? Because that goes against Tuli's goals, right? But they don't have to be the same ones, right? Like for instance, we most likely, that's it, most likely, in my humble opinion, I think we should take those goals as ours, most likely, right? As part of this group, right? But that's just my opinion, friend's opinion, right? That's it. So now, what I was going to say. Yeah. So to Jonas' point, so Jonas has shared a very interesting perspective there on the chat. Maintainers don't, sorry for the word, don't care. I change it. Maintainers don't care about, let's say, overall picture of the community and so on. Usually they just like part-time contributing to one tool or something like that. They don't have any incentive. Yeah. Thank you, Jonas. They don't care. They don't have any incentive. So, so yeah, in general, I mean, there are exceptions, obviously. But in general, that's the case. But that doesn't mean that we cannot take actions that will make these people, let's say, do stuff in a way that will encourage more people to join them and participate more. I'll elaborate on that. So for instance, Jonas could just have created the essentials building blocks working group, for instance. He could just have submitted the pull request the first day, right? With Suvic, with a few folks that he knew about, all the parsers and so on. And then say, you know what, folks, we're all gonna work on this. You're gonna work on the Java parser, you're gonna work on this and this and this and this. Sure, you can do it. What's going to happen? The first month, you might see some engagement, but after some time, these people are gonna be like, you know what? These are not my goals. These are not my goals. I'm not part of this working group. I haven't been considered. That's why I was in the very beginning saying we haven't listened to what Maya and Tuli has to say, right? And they're part of the working group. They want to be part of the working group, right? Like because the working group is not yet created, let's say officially, right? So what I'm saying here is that like in the case of Jonas creating that working group, he could have said he could have done that, right? But because he knows that one of our other goals that we have in mind, and because he wants to make the working group successful in the long term, he said like, no, let's gonna change the approach completely. Actually, the name of the working group was going to be integrations working group or something like that. I don't recall. So it was going to be completely different. The name was changed because everybody thought the other name was a better name. So the name changed. the purpose changed, and now they're pursuing defining the goals, right? So they will come with the goals. They will come up with the goals together. Everybody can join there, right? Not just them. They'll come up with a few goals that the working group is going to be pursuing, right? Now, is that pursuing is not the same as enforcing, because they cannot enforce anything, right? Because they're not, I mean, they are maintainers in some cases, right? But they're not maintainers of all the tools they have to touch, right? So they're gonna recommend that we go in this direction for these reasons, for these goals, blah, 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 and so on, right? Now, there are different, that my point is that there are different ways of doing things. One is coming up with something, a goal and so on, and enforcing it on the rest, right? And the other one is making the people participate in defining the goals, right? That's the whole reason of this call today, right? I want all of us to come up with the goals, but before setting goals, we should set, let's say, what are we, right? What is our purpose here, right? Let's say bigger purpose. So yeah, again, this has nothing to do to Lucas' point on this conversation, this discussion, and so on. I think this was done fantastically. I'm just saying that this is these are tools goals for community 2024, also I understood. And what we're discussing is our goals for let's say for the group, not just for the year, for the group. And they most likely are gonna be the same or aligned, or call it whatever you want. But yeah, they don't have to be exactly the same set, right? And yes, it's open for anyone's participation, right? Obviously. And what we're doing here with these meetings, with these working groups and so on, is trying to incentivize people to join the discussions and to participate in the things, right? That's what we're trying to do here. So yeah, that's my perspective on all these things happening, like a summary of what I'm seeing today.
Just to clarify one point, these are not Thule's goal, these are community goals because they affect the budget. So they are a bit different than Jonas' case, although I think Jonas' way of setting up working group, it's a role model that everyone should follow. But just to make it so you're aware, and I'm asking these questions basically so you answer them in the future, because for now we have this, so as it is for me, working full-time on Async API, I'm confused. I don't know which like how we can end up having two different groups, like Thule doing her stuff and you doing your stuff. So that should be solved. And you always should remember to take it into account that in case of community goals, they're affecting budget. So if something is not in the community goals, then when I do budget planning, I basically ignore these things. So if we have some in this community goals, if we have ambassador program or we have some conference stuff, I take it into account as executive director to plan the budget, to also plan where I engage, that I spend some time working also with sponsors to sponsor conference, etc., etc. So that's what I follow now, and I need to know what's next.
And just to clarify as well, like I completely agree. In my opinion, I don't think there should be like Thule doing her own stuff and us doing our own stuff. I think it should be like all coming together. So Thule will be replaced by a bigger entity, which is Thule plus us, right? Helping her. I'm not helping her because it's not just her anymore. So it's all of us making sure that that these things happen. That's why I said, like, I think it's going to happen. I think it's, in my opinion, I think we should take the goals that were defined there and make it ours, right? Part of this group. But maybe not only those goals. That's what I meant, right? So maybe we can have more goals as well. So, and yeah, and we need to make sure that if it's going to be affecting the community, obviously we need to ping Lucas or whoever is in charge of the money or the budget in the future, right? So we need to make sure that because these things have an impact, like growing the ambassadors program has a direct impact on budget because we send swags to ambassadors. So yeah, we need to be careful with that, of course. I agree with that. So yeah.
Can we have a follow-up meeting to continue this conversation? Because I feel like we only did a third of what we were hoping to achieve.
Of course. Of course, I agree with that. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to fall. I mean, I shared all these questions there in the issue, just so you have a context as well of what's in my mind, let's say, or what I had in mind that I wanted to discuss. But yeah, like I had no, let's say, expectations that we will complete all these things in a single meeting. That will be like probably wrong. Probably wrong. That will probably be a sign of something is going wrong if we all do all of this in a single meeting. But yeah, like I agree, we should have probably a follow-up, 1 or 2 or even 3 follow-up meetings on this until we're clear, until everything's clear. And in the meantime, let's take advantage of the things that we discussed here today and make a little bit of noise in the community. So, because there might be other people interested in joining as well, or in participating in follow-up meetings and getting more, different points of views, things that we never thought about, right? So yeah, I'll even if they don't join the working group, but they can join the meetings, right? So yeah, that's my.
I have a question. So me personally, I still feel confusion. And I think that I also share the same questions that Lucas and Thule had earlier about how we are integrating what used to be just Thule, Lucas doing community building and budgeting, and now realizing, wait, now there's a working group that has some alignment. So now how are we working together here? I myself am very still like blank about how is the correct procedure to move forward there. So I guess I'm wondering, like, for us individuals after this call, do we have some action items? Is the action item to set up the next call to continue this discussion? Or I guess I just feel really blank, and I hate feeling blank. And so but I don't know what the action item is either.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm feeling the same thing. I don't know about the rest, but I'm feeling the same thing. Like I'm still unclear of what the purpose of this group will be or should be, right? So my opinion, and you can add whatever you want after. I think one next item to do is that in the discussion that we have created for the creation of this group, I'm gonna note down, like this question, this very first question, like, what should be the purpose of this community growth working group, right? And I think we all it will be, I will say it will be beneficial if we all take time to respond there, like outside of call, you can think properly during the week and so on, and leave a response there. And yeah, so because if it's written, it's going to be easier to manage, like and clear, to manage, because right now here we were all just like throwing opinions and so on, and the conversation is a little bit entangled, so it's complicated. But let's write it down. Let's take some time to write it down. I will say, please take some time to write down your thoughts on that. I'll post a question so we can all reply there. And yeah, let's set up another meeting. Because otherwise it's and I think we're in the right track, to be honest. So I'm feeling blank as well, as you said, Alejandra, but I have the feeling that now we're in the right track. Like now we're discussing the things that we should have discussed since the very beginning, that should have been clear since the very beginning. And now, like, looks like we might be able to establish, like a proper setup for the working group and make things clear and easy to understand for everyone, right? So yeah. if everyone wants to add something else like to this discussion, of course, feel free. Or if you have any other ideas of action items to do. Cool. I myself, I'm gonna take Jonah's recommendation of Samir's recommendation about this book, and I'm gonna read the book. Maybe not this week, of course, but yeah, just to get some ideas.
I want to say that I'm very positive about this meeting, even though the discussion went to another direction, but I think it's completely valid and needed, because without the discussion, so we are not going to be aligned ever. So I'm pretty happy, to be honest.
So, any more thoughts? I think, Miguel, it will be super helpful if you can just share on the discussion. I don't know if you have the link to the discussion. Like,
Yeah.
how are you doing on OpenAPI?
Yeah, I'll put some suggestions how we're doing that, because we have a yes, right, we have an OpenAPI, which is the umbrella, then we have a ton of SIGs, and the SIGs are, we're trying to generally all the SIGs to operate kind of the same. So then we report back to the weekly OpenAPI call and etc. So of course, like I said, as far as the SIG, right, there's a community building piece of it, the facilitating all of those goals that you folks have already in place. It's just facilitation, and we're all here because we like APIs, the interfaces, and the excellent job that Async has done in this space. So please don't shut it down. Hopefully it goes on forever.
I don't think we have that power either.
Okay.
It's already like set in motion. We cannot stop it.
Yes. Excellent. Exactly. It's gone. It's out the door. It's awesome. Anyway, thank you for sharing. So I'll try to join more often. But yeah, I'll share the link and I'll throw something in there. Thanks a lot, friend.
Thank you. Alejandra, you wanted to say something, I think.
Yeah, sorry, I have a habit of getting too excited, and apparently I feel like I always try to speak up right when somebody else is talking, so now I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so embarrassing. I'm sorry. I want to blame partially the internet lag, so it's not just all on me. Maybe that's just to make me feel better. It's not me, it's the internet lag. I don't know if it's a question. Sorry if I don't know how to say the question. The only other major concern I have for our group is not just if we understand what we are, but also, do we all align on the best way to be in sync and communicate with each other? And so for me personally, I would love for us to really prioritize thinking about improving our communication in our next follow-up meeting, if you will. Because I think that's the other thing that's really potentially blocking us from being more successful.
You think about something in particular? Because I'm not sure I understand.
Yes. I just kind of feel like for example, I do have an example, but I'm worried that if I get into it, then I'll be like talking for 5 minutes right now, and everyone is like, Alejandra, I want to get back to my life. So I guess the shortest way to answer that is that so far it has felt kind of like sometimes Sergio says stuff, Barbaño says stuff over here, Alejandra says stuff over here, but it doesn't really seem like it's a communication. It's more like people are avisando, just like telling you like, oh, hey, I should let you know I did this. I did a thing. I think the following. This is my opinion. But to me, that's not us communicating as a group. That's just me arriving and saying, here's what I think, and this is what I'm going to do. Okay, see ya. Bye. And so to me, that's not a community working, a group working together. Like I've observed that a lot in the way that we work. And I've expressed this before that I think overall Async KPI has for a while in its, typical growth pains. Communication is a typical growth pain in any new community or any growing community. So I just want to submit that I think it's even more important that a community growth working group really chooses to prioritize improving communication, because I don't see how we're going to be successful if we don't learn how to be better communicators, and if we don't all feel that we're in sync, because I don't feel that we're in sync, and I know that I'm not the only one that sometimes gets a little bit confused there.
Yeah. All right. Suggest that, please, for the next meeting, so that we have it in the agenda. Okay. Or if you don't mind, please remind me on Slack, and I'll put it on the agenda myself, and whatever works best for you. So yeah. Cool, folks. So we're way over time today. Thanks for joining. Thanks, Miguel. Bye-bye. And yeah, hope to see you in the next meeting as well. Take care. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye.